Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some I Don't Work Here Lady stories, and our first story of the day is by maryrosetudor. Let this be a lesson. Context: this story is about my sister who is very much into the goth scene. My sister is also a teacher, and for professional reasons, she tones down the goth for school, but still wears a lot of black and gothic jewelry to work. Now on to the story. Last school year, my sister had a student teacher named June. June was a lovely girl in the classroom, great with the kids, and my sister could tell she would be a great teacher one day. She got along with my sister well enough, but she thought my sister was weird, well, for being goth. But being in her 30s, my sister doesn't really care. Well, one weekend, my sister went to the mall with a couple of friends, looking like she came out of a Charlotte Bronte novel. An example, really pale skin and dark makeup. Went into a candy shop and lo and behold, there's June. My sister went away from her group of friends and to strike up a conversation with June, and here is the interaction. Sis says, "Hey June, how's your weekend go?" She was interrupted by June. "Yeah, can you give me like 3 pounds of jelly beans and some item I can't remember?" Sister.exe stopped working. She looks at the candy store employees who were wearing blue bright shirts and aprons with the store name on them. My sister looks like Morticia Adams. Maybe Weekend Brain? "June, it's me, Miss F, your mentor." "Yeah, so?" "You work in my classroom at Catholic school?" "And your point is?" "It's me, Miss Franklin. Not real name, obviously." "Again, so what? I need jelly beans and some items I can't remember." "Look, I just came to say hello, but obviously not. You're being really rude right now." "How dare you? I go to fancy college and student teacher at Catholic school. I'm getting the manager." "Oh, sure, go ahead. I am also going to tell the headmaster about this incident and your professor. God forbid you run into any parents or kids outside of school." Sister walked away. She didn't email the headmaster or her professor, but did email June telling her to meet her early on Monday morning. Monday morning comes around and my sister looks less like Morticia and more like Abby from NCIS. My sister is one of those who, when they are mad, she gets stone-faced, does not show any emotion. June comes into the classroom all chipper and smiles, and my sister gets up to greet her. "June, we have a lot to discuss. First, did you not truly know it was me on Saturday at the candy shop?" June's face went white, but she didn't say anything. "Can you explain your behavior that day, or is that how you are outside of the classroom?" "I didn't recognize you at first, but when I did..." "So you double down on your mistake and make a complete butt of yourself. You're lucky that I didn't tell the headmaster or your professor about this. Let this be a lesson. You never stop being a teacher outside of school. You may be the only adult your student may trust. If you act the way you did this past weekend, and that student sees you act like that, you have just broken that trust. Never do that again." June sobered up real quick after that. They finished up the school year. My sister never saw June again, but she hopes that encounter that weekend taught her something. Let me ask you guys something. If you work in a position such as being a teacher of some sort, do you have an extra responsibility to uphold a good mannerism in public because of that? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Our next story is by Pipeliner 1978 Big T. I don't work here, Karen. I live in Southeast Texas, oil country. I wear a PPE, personal protective equipment, uniform with my company's name and logo, along with an ID badge with the same name and company logo. I also live in a really nice suburb. I'll start off by naming all characters. I'll be T, Karen will be Karen, Walmart employees will be W1, and MG for manager. While visiting our local Walmart, I'm in the meat section looking for ground lamb when an older lady asked me if I knew what aisle the toilet paper was on. I shop at the Walmart a lot, so I tell her aisle 17. She thanks me and parts ways. Not 2 seconds later, I hear someone say, "Excuse me," very rudely. Let's call rude lady Karen, and myself T. Karen shrieks out, "I tried getting your attention before that other woman. Why didn't you help me first?" I respond, "Ma'am, I didn't hear or see you, and I don't work here. That other lady asked for my help. Politely, I might add, so I helped her since I knew where the item she was looking for is located." Well, since you helped her and you know where things are at, you must help me. I laugh and say, listen, C-word, I don't have to do shoot, especially for an entitled Karen like yourself. Karen gets racist real quick. I forgot to mention I'm Mexican in Southeast Texas. Belts out, well, what do you know, a lazy Mexican. My blood is boiling, so I belt out, listen here, you racist C-word, get the freak out of my face, freak you and freak your family. Karen's face turns bright red and Karen proceeds to slap me twice, then an employee walks over asking, excuse me, is something wrong? Before I could say anything, Karen goes off into a Karen rant. I asked this lazy Mexican for help and as usual, he's too lazy to help me. These freaking foreigners need to go back to where they're from. The Walmart employee was Mexican as well. Karen then continues saying, then after I asked for his help, T slapped me and called me a C-word and a B. Meanwhile, Karen didn't know worker 1 saw the entire altercation. Karen yells, I want to see the manager and have T arrested. Worker 1 complies and calls for his manager over the loudspeaker. Manager arrives asking what's going on and Karen repeats her lies. Manager asks me what happened, then worker 1 what happened. Manager asks Karen, do you want me to call the police? Karen says yes. Side note, if worker 1 hadn't come over when he did, I was ready to smack the crap out of Karen. The police arrive, all the while Karen going on and on about how I'm going to jail and getting deported. The police question all parties involved, then ask if there's security footage. Manager replies, absolutely. Karen then started shaking, knowing darn well what the truth was. The police watch the video and ask me if I want to press charges. I said with absolute satisfaction, yes, I want to press charges on this racist C-word. I forgot to mention the police as well as the manager are Mexican, and they all start laughing. The police then put the witch in cuffs and took her to jail. I had to go to court a few months later, and Karen received 14 months, 2 years probation, and 1 year of community service. Karen was lucky she wasn't charged with a hate crime, but justice was served. While in court, I was able to make a statement to Karen, and I told Karen, I am half Mexican, half white. I was born in Ohio and my parents were born in Ohio. Regardless that I'm of Mexican descent and that I was born here in America, your racism is not tolerated anymore. I hope you get the justice you deserve in jail. Karen had the nerve to respond by calling me a wireless spicy, but I had the last laugh when the deputy who took her away was, guess what, Mexican. I'm guessing Karen didn't have a good day after a while going through processing. You know, for a person as blatantly racist as this Karen is, they seem to really be living in the wrong area because it seems that there's a lot of minority people. And considering you're going to be blatantly racist like that, it probably is the best for everyone that you either get out of there or you get behind bars, which obviously we see which one ended up happening. Our next story is by Logicality. I assure you, I know where I work. So, living in an area with little options for department stores lead to seeing the same customers frequently, in and out of work. I work for a well-known company that has a very specific uniform. Think printed, branded scarves around the neck, kind of specific. A couple of days ago, having spent enough time encountering the joys of panic buyers and stockpilers, I left the store on my break to go pick up a few items at another department store next door. Now this store doesn't have a uniform per se, just the clothes from the section that the employee is working in. Plus a colored name badge for clarification. I very much do not look like I work there. At all. Especially with the mask I'm wearing with my work logo clearly written on the side. I picked up something from a table but decided against it and went to fold it before I put it back in the pile. Because trust me, I know how awful tables can get. Every little helps. I get a tap on the shoulder followed by the telltale clearing of a throat, which I didn't appreciate given the circumstances, so I turned around, naturally assuming I was in the way. We shall call him disgruntled customer. Quick apology later, I turned to move on as my break was due to be over pretty soon. Then another throat clearing and, I'm paraphrasing here, I do not appreciate you ignoring me. Oh, sorry, I just assumed you were trying to get past.
You assumed wrong. Now help me find X product and X size since there isn't any out. You must go to the back and find some now.
Once again, sorry, but I don't work here. But I'm sure there will be someone nearby that can help. Once more, I try to leave knowing I need to get back to where I actually work.
Where do you think you're going? How dare you lie to me? I know you work here because you've served me before. Now hurry to the back or I'll call a manager for your incompetence and rudeness.
Really, I don't work here. Although I may have served you at my workplace, which, to reiterate, isn't here. I really can't help you.
You work here. Stop lying to me and do your job. You young people these days don't understand customer service. I demand you help me this instant.
At this point, I really had to leave. So I quickly waved at an employee that actually worked there over to deal with disgruntled customer as I legged it back to work to make sure I was back in time for my break. Didn't get a chance to buy anything I was planning on buying, but I did leave disgruntled customers spluttering in rage in a pretty notable shade of red. Little wins, I suppose. I could see this being a definite downfall of working retail in a small town, getting confused as a familiar face because they've seen you serve them at least at some other place before, and it sounds like this person was of an older demographic, so they're probably easily confused. This next story is by folowthewhiterarebit, Miss Brown. This is a slightly different one. Many moons ago, I went to a private school in the UK with an academic scholarship. The scholarship is not important in itself for this tale, but it was expected that kids who earned them were to maintain top grades and represent the school in a well-rounded, exemplary manner. Among other things, I was the stage manager for the school productions and a prefect. For those of you not in the UK, a prefect is one of the older students, sixth formers at my school, that has duties such as managing the lunch queue and supervising the library. Sixth formers, ages 16 to 18, wore suits rather than the school uniform. For girls, for that is what I am, this meant a fitted blazer, blouse, trousers, or skirts, preferably a pencil skirt and leather shoes. Female students were also encouraged to wear a bit of makeup and heels, but this was in no way a mandate. On top of this, prefects and teachers wore gowns when going about their duty. That was one of the reasons locals to the area called the place Hogwarts. Onwards, I loved sixth form. I did subjects I actually cared about and was a senior member of an awful lot of societies. And I really liked wearing a suit. I will admit, I spent a lot of money on those clothes and I looked good in them. I am not especially pretty, but suits gave me an androgynous flair and I was finally allowed to wear heeled lace-up boots. Another thing about me is I have a very loud and quick walk. The clipped beat that is generally used to signify a scary female teacher that is bearing down on the heroes of teenage movies is exactly what I sounded like. On the one hand, it was embarrassing, and on the other, I did have the power to silence the head of mathematics just by walking up the stairs. 2 final points, I was the head of debating and therefore spoke with an accent that had been trained to sound like it should not be challenged. An example, posh and confident. And due to the quirks of the UK private school life, I was addressed by my last name. Here I shall call myself Miss Brown. All told, people thought I was a teacher, just with a really young face. Prospective parents, teachers applying for jobs, new students. As a prefect, it was part of my duty to lead them around the school, showing them a selection of classes and extracurricular activities. Conversations often went as such.
And what do you teach?
I don't. I'm a student.
Oh, right.
Leading to an awkward silence as long as the English corridor. Somehow, I feel that I was a disappointing tour guide. All things considered, I probably would have been too lazy to be a prefect. And also, as an American that went to a high school that had a pretty carefree dressing code, I couldn't imagine wearing suits every single day to school. You would not be able to convince the people that went to my high school to do that. Our next story is by CaptainPunisher. Ladies, are you going to complain about a little extra length? I was in my nearby Home Depot where I spent a lot of time, so I know how to find stuff. Usually. I went down the hardware aisle and saw a group of 4 women in their 40s to 60s. One had a machine screw and they were looking for a big pack of them, looking terribly lost. If you know the threaded product section in these stores, it's pretty well laid out if you know how bolts and stuff work. I asked the one with the screw if she'd like some help, and she was thrilled for the offer. I took the screw to the sizing chart. Okay, it's a 1032 1 1/4 long. I pulled the baggie with 6 screws in it off the wall, and she asked if they have big packs. They don't that length, but they had the big pack of 1 1/2 inch screws. I asked the group if that would be alright, and one of them said it would stick through the back. I looked back and stuff a little, finding the proper size. I handed the screws to them and jokingly said, "That's the first time I've heard women complain about a little extra length." They laughed and thanked me before I gave them my parting words. I can't get fired for that statement, because I don't work here. Yeah, if you did work there, I don't think those would be the words you'd want to tell a customer, especially a female customer. But I can see how it would make for an amusing exchange. And our final story of the day is by JDawn82. Sorry, kid. My first time for this to happen since I joined this sub. I was at the store that rhymes with Paul Blart doing some shopping for some Halloween science projects. I had on a school sweatshirt which was blue but had our school logo and glitter all over, my school lanyard and ID, and a mask that was an enlarged version of the lower half of Sarah Sanderson's, from Hocus Pocus, face. I ran into a colleague from another school and we were chatting. A kid maybe 12 to 14 came up to me to ask if we have any treat bags, and I said, "Sorry, sweetie, but I don't work here." He was really embarrassed and explained that it was because of my sweatshirt color and the fact that I had a lanyard around my neck. I laughed and said it was okay and that I hoped he found what he was looking for. I ran into him a few more times in various parts of the store. His face would get red, he'd apologize all over again, and I'd laugh and say, "It's all good," or something like it. It was super cute. Poor guy. As somebody that at 12 to 14 would definitely clam up in social situations very often like that, I could see how the poor guy would be pretty embarrassed. But overall it wasn't too bad, and hopefully as the kid grows up, if they look back on that moment, hopefully they realize that it wasn't a big deal rather than kind of cringing about it. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you enjoyed the stories today, let me know which one was your personal favorite and why in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, please like this video and subscribe and turn notifications on, because anything you do helps this channel grow so much more. So no matter what you do, whether it was just watching the video, liking, subscribing, thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time right here.